but it's been 3 months since anything's been uploaded to the Trail Junkies YouTube channel. I tried reaching out to Kyle, but I haven't heard anything back. All the Trail Junkies social media has gone dark. Dark. It looks like we won't be getting them back anytime soon. Feel that sound, man? And it looks like we won't be getting them back anytime soon. So after some reflection on that a little bit, I decided to create my own fan version of the Trail Junkies and pick up where Kyle left off. As you probably already know, Kyle was saved for download with the Wessex Common Trail back channel. Lucky for me, I already snagged a copy of the map before he did. Not sure what happened to Kyle, but I really love this community, and I think it's time someone picked up where he left off. Yeah, so I guess I'll have some more updates as soon as I start hitting some trails. Wish me luck. Right now.
Oh yeah, I think that's the program.
Check 1, 2, that works. All right, everybody, I'm Vincent DiSanti. I directed the film and also starred as Jason in it. And I do some voiceover work in it as well. But if you guys have any questions about the film or anything about the making of it,
Anyone, any questions?
well, inspiration was definitely Friday the 13th. But as you know, the films have been in a legal kind of boondoggle for the last, I want to say, 8 years. They just got out of it towards the end of the making of this movie, but prior to that, the last film was made in 2009. They went through about 3 or 4 different iterations of films that they were supposed to make that never got made. And as a fan back in 2017, when they Never Hike Alone 1, it was mostly just, I was ready for Friday the 13th content. I was sort of starting this tradition that every Friday the 13th I would go out and I would take a photo, or I would make a short little video, or I would just make a mask and I would post it online. And so I was always kind of gearing up for every Friday the 13th, and then the idea for the original Never Hike Alone came along, and it was like a 5-minute short film that turned into a 20-minute short film, and turned into a 30-minute short film, and then before I knew it, I had an hour's worth of content. We had Tom Matthews signed on, and he was a secret cameo at the beginning, at the end of the first movie. And that sort of opened up the world to, everyone saw the first Never Hike Alone, and it went viral. We debuted at the Telluride Horror Show, and then there was a demand for it. It was like, they weren't gonna make new movies, they went into lawsuit hell, and we had to actually pitch to a couple of the studios, a couple of the ideas that, you know, were in here. In fact, this entire film I had pitched in the studio in 2019, along with Never Hike in the Snow. And the studio loved it. The people at the executives thought it was a great idea. They just needed to figure out how to make it. And then the lawsuit went into another chapter, and they were like, "You gotta wait." And so I said, "Well, I can't really wait around. Tom Matthews isn't getting any younger. Russell Farr isn't getting any younger, and I got other stuff going on. So I might as well just keep crowdfunding and see what happened." And then, yeah, fans from all around the world supported it. Like 52 countries around the world with that. That was me notifying myself when the movie was gonna end. Yeah, I mean, it was just online support really kept edging me forward. I was sort of like, okay, that was good, that was fun, and people wanted more, and my entire life, when I got into the film industry, all I wanted to do was work on a Friday the 13th film. So instead of waiting for the opportunity, I just created it for myself.
Any more upcoming Jason projects?
Actually, yeah, we're going to be doing the final cut of Never Hike Alone coming this fall. It's going to be on crowdfunding. It's probably going to be on Kickstarter. So that's going to be Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and this cut is one seamless timeline. With that is going to come a bonus project called Ghosts in the Fog. So one of the things that I wanted to do with Friday the 13th is bring it into animation. I have an animation background working in feature animation for like 8 or 9 years. And I always thought it would be cool to see Friday the 13th in animation. So I partnered with a studio in Mexico called Mako Animation, who's going to do a 2D sort of, we were talking about like Bruce Timm's Batman style and sort of Dark Knight, something that's very palpable and that, fans I think would recognize it as, a certain type of animation. So we've been working on something called Ghosts in the Fog. It's a 7-minute sort of sizzle piece to show what the world of Friday the 13th would look in animation. And then there are about 3 or 4 other stories that I would love to do with that medium. to say, okay, I don't really have any time and energy to go out and shoot these films anymore, because this was a $350,000 movie. It took me 2.5 years to raise that money. It took me 2.5 years to shoot the film, or at least get the permission to go shoot the film and go do all that stuff. So with animation, I can go do other things, and then the animation team can check in with me. I can review stuff on my computer and keep going. So we're working on stuff right now. That will be a part of the next campaign. And there's also an idea to do Never Hike Alone 3. I mean, the little teaser at the end is mostly about bringing Never Hike Alone sort of back to its roots and going out and live with somebody who's less attuned to nature than Kyle is, and having fun with YouTubers and things like that, and sort of playing with that idea. But that's something I probably won't address for maybe another couple of years before some other projects I have that I'm working on now that I'll look at them.
How difficult was it to get Tom Matthews into the films?
It actually was easier than you think. Our executive producer, Barry J., had a friend who was a mutual friend of Tom's, and he just bothered him for the longest time about, I just want to go get dinner with Tom, I just love to meet him and get to know him, and yada, yada, yada. But Barry's like he's a legit dude. He owns Barry's Boot Camp, which is a famous gym line that's all around the world. So Barry knows his stuff, and he's a big Friday fan, and he finally got to sit down with Tom, and at that dinner, he mentioned that he was an EP on Never Hike Alone. He became an EP through our first Kickstarter. And just said, hey, dude, this fan film, why don't you come out and do it? And Tom was like, I guess, I'll sit down with you guys just to humor you, but I'm not a fan film guy, and I've seen you fan films and they suck. And we sat him down and we made him watch the trailer, and he was like, what can I do for you? What do you need? And I just sat down, and in the first film, he's just in one scene, and I said, listen, and this is again, I originally made these films because I wanted to give Friday the 13th fans something to cheer about, because we didn't have a lot to cheer about back in 2017. They had just canceled the movie and all these other things were kind of going on. And I said, Tom, I have this idea. You're going to play an ambulance driver. You're going to show up at the end of the movie. I'm not going to tell anyone that you've been cast. We're just going to let the film go out, let it be seen. And then when people see the movie and you're at the end of the movie, you're the cherry on top. And you're going to get fanboys all around the world to jump out of their chairs. And that's the story we hear every time we go to a convention, especially early on when people were first getting into it. They were like, I didn't know he was in it, and he came on the screen, I was screaming in my living room, and it was like, that's why we did it. Yeah, that's the type of excitement I think that Friday the 13th fans have been missing in their lives. Like, we see Halloween going out and getting a new trilogy, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a new movie every few years, Chucky's got a TV series and a reboot. So it's sort of like, where's the love for Friday the 13th? And the studios have a real hard time justifying spending money on a franchise that's a winner. Every time you put it in the theater, it's gonna make money. You just have to spend the money wisely and not spend $30-40 million to make it. You've gotta, work within that 5 to 10 budget, or even under that. And we proved with these films that, all 3 films were made for roughly $500,000, and they've been wildly popular on the internet. Never Hike Alone has 4.5 million views. Never Hike Alone 2 hasn't been out a year. It already caught Never Hike Alone 1. It passed Never Hike Alone 1. It's crawling towards 5 million. So overall, we have about, I think, 12 million views collectively throughout the franchise that we've built. And it's unofficial. So if it was official, it would just get that many more eyes and more people would be willing to see it, and there. So kind of go back to Rome. But with Tom, it was just really showing him the trailer and showing him that he just wasn't going to be in another fan film. He was going to mean something, and it's been a great ride for him. We got to work with him on Never Hike in the Snow, and obviously he's in every day we shot. He was there except for maybe one. So for him, this was really kind of dusting off the old chops and getting out there, really acting, and Tom really brought it in this one. There's a few scenes in here where he really has to act. He's got to bring some emotion and really tell Tommy's story, especially the scene with him and Anna in the hospital, where he's basically saying, this is why I'm doing this is why I can't tell anybody, this is what I've been dealing with. And I remember filming that at the studio, and that was a day that I was just good. We got the heart of the movie. This is the essential heart of the movie for what we're doing. Now we can go up and have fun and go crush people's heads and do all the rest of it.
It's really cool. You had Shelly from Part 3 was in there. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I was like, I know that guy.
Yeah, so once Tom sort of broke the mold, it was, we got Vinny Guastafaro involved, and Vinny and him are good friends. So he got Vinny in, and then from going on to convention to convention, I met Larry a couple of times. In fact, I met Larry before I made Never Hike Alone at a screening of Friday the 13th Part 3 where I'm dressed in the ghost chasing costume, and nobody knew what Never Hike Alone was at the time. And so I was promoting, and I met Larry, and then I met Larry again during the filming of the Friday the 13th video game mocap. So I got to design one of the kills for the game, and Larry showed up to be like, what are they doing? And so I was explaining mocap to him. And then I bumped into him when, he was at a convention in Arizona, and I went to go visit Tom, and he was sitting right next to Larry, and so I was sitting between Tom and Larry and getting to know Larry. So when I had the idea to do the mayor of Crystal Lake, I was like, it's gotta be Larry. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what he does online, but he's an entertainment lawyer now, and throughout the entire Friday the 13th legal battle, he would show up online and sort of explain the rulings to fans and say, hey, this is what this means, this is probably how long this decision is gonna make, and this, and he just weighed in on it. He was just such a good sort of steward for fans to go to and ask questions, and so I was like, you're the man. So he came up and we did that. We actually shot that. I was staying in Los Angeles at a friend's house, and we shot that in her backyard to make it look like we were in the forest. Like, I was like, you got a couple trees back there, we'll just aim it at the hill, like kind of just frame it out. But he came over, did that one shoot. Tracy Savage is in it. She plays the news reporter, and she was actually a KTLA news reporter for like 20 years. And she now teaches broadcast journalism, I believe at Cal State Northridge. A couple other cameos in there. Adam Marcus does a voiceover, Ron Sloan does a voiceover, Cindy Kinay does a voiceover, who's actually Vinny's wife. She plays the woman in Part 6 who gets skewered on the motorbike. Debbie Voorhees does a voiceover. Judy Aronson does a voiceover, and Judy I co-starred with in 13 Fanboy. So yeah, I mean, it's been the outpouring of support from alumni has been great, and so they've been really championing and pushing the film. Obviously, Doug Tate's in the movie. He plays the cop who gets his head cut off, and that was a throwback to Freddy versus Jason. Since he's the Jason that walks out with Freddy in his hand, we're like, I'm gonna do the same thing to you, but Jason's gonna walk in with your head. And so it was all these little things that were just fun. He got to keep his head, which was that was his payment. So he loved that. So it's been pretty cool. Getting to know everybody's been a real rap journey.
Now, who has the panel of board? I don't know if it's still together, but who has that?
Yeah, no, there's multiple panel heads. There's a collector in Seattle who purchased a lot of the props from the film. He's a big Friday the 13th fan, and he has the original panel head from the first one. He's got the one from 2009, and he has ours. He also has the 2009 mask, Jason Takes Manhattan mask, and a few others. And so he was a big fan of what we did. He was a big supporter in the movies, and so he kind of made an offer on the mask, the original mask that we used in the movie. And it was like, well, if it's going to go live in a museum with other masks, I think that that's a cool place for it to go. And then when he auctions things out to sort of go on display at conventions, the mask was with it, and it's a great way to kind of promote the film, especially like putting it alongside the actual films.
Where can we see films of this? I've kind of heard of it.
Yeah, so the whole series plays on YouTube, so if you go to Womp Stomp Films and look us up, but if you literally just type in Never Hike Alone into a Google search, the movies will pop up. It will bring you to our channel, and then the channels are listed right at the top. The Never Hike Alone series is right there, 1, 2, 3. There's another thing called Disappear, which is a music video which we made, which is a prequel even to that. If you watch something called The Ghost Cut on the website, it's Disappear, Never Hike in the Snow, and Never Hike Alone played back to back to back in chronological order to kind of show people what the lineage of how we're kind of growing it out of the original franchise. And in our eyes, this is like the true sequel and ending to Jason Takes Manhattan versus what Jason Goes to Hell did. So that's another talk about what was my motivation? My motivation was to undo what Jason Goes to Hell did, which was just give us an ending that didn't make any sense with a bunch of made up nonsense that was never in the previous films. And everything that Never Hike Alone talks about are concepts and themes that were in the previous movies that never got finished. And so Tommy's story never really got finished. Pamela's head, whatever happened to that, and then sort of tying like what would be the supernatural lore that would make sense for us to destroy Jason, and it was destroy the. It's just kind of like the video game, the NES one, like destroy the head, destroy Jason, and that's sort of the idea I had. And I started putting those pieces together and realizing that we had the perfect conduit with the Power McCloud character in the first movie, which sort of like woke the monster back up, and now Don Quixote, you know, Tommy Jarvis is chasing windmills for all these years, all of a sudden has a dragon to slay, but can't do it. It really all kind of set itself up, and I just put the pieces together, and then it really became a challenge of what can we actually do on screen versus what I can write on paper. So a lot of the things that I had in the original idea sort of like fell to the wayside doing it this way. But the core story of Tommy finding an ending, Jason finding an ending, all of these characters sort of slowly all getting their arcs closed, which is something that Friday the 13th is not known for, and that's what I wanted to show, is that if Friday the 13th was written in a way that it actually closed story arcs and actually finished stories and did this, that it actually makes it a more powerful franchise, because it's entertaining as hell, but just the stories go everywhere and they don't make sense. So it was like, let's start making it make sense. It's like, it's a new era. Like, we don't have to do the things the 80s did. We can actually tell complete stories now. That was sort of the motivation for it.
Because after 6, they started to get wonky. So.
Yeah, after 6, it just became about, okay, Jason versus Carrie. Okay, put Jason in Manhattan. All right, what's this Jason Goes to Hell? Let's throw the Necronomicon in it and come up with a bunch of Evil Dead stuff. And then it was go to space and versus Freddy. And then when they made 2009, you know, this opportunity to go and be like, okay, what really happened to Jason? Did he drown or did he survive? Is he human or is he undead? And none of those questions got answered. And it got convoluted even more, and we just sort of got more typical Jason action, and it never found traction to make another sequel. And I think that was because they really didn't have much to jump off of lore-wise, because they never set it up correctly. So this was my opportunity to say, let me show you what this looks like when it comes like this.
And I love that there's no, like, comic relief is too much in movies now, and there's little to none. And that's what I love.
Yeah, I mean, there's little moments of comedy here, like the jelly cut, which is
Freddy versus Jason was just.
Yeah, it was a goofy movie. And Jason looked goofy, and that was another thing too. It's like Jason just kept getting goofier and goofier looking, starting with the mask reveal in part 8, and I wanted to design him from the ground up.
Part 7.
Part 7 he did a face reveal, and even that, he looks kind of Muppety. He looks like Jim Henson's Jason Voorhees. He had the big teeth, and even Kane was like, when you take Jason's mask off, it just depowers him.
Demystifies.
It demystifies. We do a mask, we do a face reveal in Never Hike Alone 1, but we hide a lot of it in shadow. And we just wanted to show that there were pieces missing, but we didn't want to show the whole face. And we let the character's reaction kind of sell what he's seeing in a way. Yeah, it was, you know, it's kind of all the lessons learned, I guess, all put into one fell swoop of an idea.
I just think it's cool, like the way you did Jason, like the mask is different and everything is just different. So
yeah, everything's supposed to be like a reset. Like, so this is him coming down from Manhattan, everything was melted off of him. So he had to rebuild himself. And in fact, one of the animated stories that we want to do is called The Ghost of Crystal Lake. And that is about his return to Camp Crystal Lake, about him coming all the way back from, like, what brought him back from New York. And then what did he find when he got there? And then there's another story about somebody who is sort of like a John Rambo vagabond who's found his way into Crystal Lake looking for work, looking for a place to stay, ends up taking residence at Camp Crystal Lake, living in the woods, running away from his demons. And the curse that surrounds Crystal Lake kind of starts fucking with him. And then Jason shows up and it really turns into this really wild story about him having war flashbacks and getting stuck in those flashbacks and not knowing what's reality. He walks in one door and all of a sudden he's in the jungle. And then a grenade blows up and he dives out of the way and he dives into a hallway. And he doesn't know where he is. And sort of leads him down this event that he's been running from, and it finally reveals it. And you kind of realize that he's like wearing all the stuff that Jason wears. And he finds a mask that just looks like new Jason's mask. So it's kind of like this is how Jason became what we have called Ghost Jason, which was the name that the fans gave him.
Cool name, well, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it was. As soon as they said it, I was like, that's a good idea.
Yep, done deal.
Done. Put it on the box. Any other questions? Any?
Maybe ignorant to the workings of it, or hopefully for this big screen. Because I mean, that was amazing.
I mean, they would have to buy it outright. I think the hesitation would be a couple of fans run into the woods, they make their own fan film, all of a sudden the studio buys it. Now everybody and their mom is going to run into the woods and start making, like, and they already are, Halloween fan films, Scream fan films, Freddy fan films, you know, you name it, they're out there. But, you know, that's not a bad thing. Let people make stuff. Let people celebrate their fandom. And if it's good enough, reward them by putting it in a box set. Like, Will it go into the theater looking like this? I don't know. But I know that this would be great on, you know, the Screenbox just did the Friday the 13th box set. This would be great on a bonus disc. You know what I mean? And I think that's how I discovered fan films. There were fan films on a bonus disc, and I was like, what is this? Wait, we can make them ourselves? Oh, that's cool. And it was just something that lived in the back of my head for like a decade, and then I finally took it upon myself to give it a shot. And it really all started with designing that Jason. I wanted to design a new Jason, a new cosplay, and that was my goal for that Friday the 13th. And then once I had that costume, I was like, let's start making movies with this. Kind of all grew from there.
So it's almost better than smaller.
Yeah, I mean, if I took this to a studio and I pitched the first movie, which was, okay, it's gonna be Jason and one guy, they would have been like, get out. We need, every 5 minutes we need boobs and blood, and so how can you do it with one dude? I'm like, well, we can show his ass. It's like, you know, they're not gonna run for that. You sort of, outside of the independent system, you're outside of the higher ups that all want to pee on your tree, that all want their idea in the film, and they're trying to save their jobs, they're trying to justify themselves, especially today, because they're all answering to the algorithm. So as long as they follow the algorithm, whether they win or lose, hey, we did what the algorithm said, so well, better luck next time. And so that would have been algorithm to death, you know what I mean? So sometimes you just gotta let artists be artists, and you gotta let ideas, like even me, like if you would ask me and you give me $10 million, I'd be like, what would you do? I wouldn't have pitched the original. I would have pitched the idea that I had for a Friday the 13th movie. It was by necessity, not having money, and just having a friend who was Kyle, and me having a costume and having a camp. It's like, what do we have with these three things that we know every weekend the three of us will be able to come up here and shoot stuff? And there was 5 of us or 6 of us at the time, a cameraman, a sound guy, somebody else who was helping us out. And it was really by necessity. And it was like, okay, we have this room, what is this room? All right, let's turn this into Steve Christie's office. Oh, you know what, this looks like a room where so-and-so died. Let's make it the Kevin Bacon room. Oh, there's only single beds? All right, let's build bunk beds. And like, we built the bunk beds. And so it was always sort of like by necessity of invention, and it was natural. It really sort of kind of came across, and it felt natural and came across the right way, but it did really feel as we were doing it like, there's something special about this. There's something that's different and unique, and Kyle in the first movie, you know, Andrew, who's played by Andrew Lady, he's just so charismatic and good, and when we look at the footage and see what he could do when he turned the camera on himself, we're like, I think we got something. I think that this is, you know, I'm no fan of, like, I'm not a huge found footage fan, like, I don't love Blair Witch, like, it bores me to death, but like, I remember watching Kyle and being like, I'm not bored, like, he's engaging, I want to keep seeing what he's doing. And also it was the dream of, haven't you ever just wanted to like jump into the movie live action hero style and like walk around Camp Crystal Lake and just look around? Like, wouldn't that be fun? Like, I thought about that all the time, and it was like, let's give audiences a chance to like have that experience. Let's have someone lead them through room by room, like it's a true crime story, and tell their story of what's going on. And that was sort of, you know, all of that sort of came together naturally, but in a studio setting, it's, I gotta pitch that idea, you gotta approve it. Now you gotta pitch it to your boss, and you gotta approve it. Pitch it to you and you and you, and I gotta go through 10 different levels of approval just to get one thing done. Versus, hey, you know what would be a good idea, guys? Let's go up in the weekend and try this. Oh, it didn't work, we'll try something different next week. And there were weekends we did that. We would go up and shoot, and we'd realize, shit, you can see the van in the back of the shot. We're gonna redo that next week. Damn it. It's like, what the hell, man? So there were, yeah, it makes it closer to heart, but it's just the people who are working on it and who are in it and who see it weighing in on it versus somebody who's not there. They don't know the circumstances you're making it under. They don't know what you're battling against, and nobody really cares at that point. But the people you do, they're working with do, and you can just sort of just use them as leverage to say, are we doing the right thing? Or what's an idea that you have? Collectively, what's the best idea in the room? All right, we're gonna do that, let's go for it. And that's how it sort of went.